Hi guys, I'm George. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm here in Regent's Park in North London, and it's actually my first time that I've been to this park, and it's really beautiful, and also the weather is quite nice today. We've got quite a bit of blue sky. Occasionally the sun has been coming through, and part of the reason that I decided to come to this park is because I've heard the cherry blossom is really nice. So last week I did a painting of some cherry blossom, and I've definitely got the cherry blossom painting bug, so here just maybe try and paint some more cherry blossom, but maybe I'll paint something else. So I've been walking around the park trying to find what I thought I would see, which would be a big avenue of cherry blossoms, because when I was looking online trying to find cherry blossom trees, that's what I think I saw at Regent's Park. But what I have found out is that the park is actually very, very big. So maybe that avenue of cherry blossoms does exist, but I've only got so much time that I can be here and paint, as I need to be somewhere in the late afternoon. But what I did see is that when I came into the park, they had this lake with these variety of different trees. They had some cherry blossom there as well, and I think that looked really beautiful, that area. So I'm actually going to go back and paint there, and it may be the case that if I find somewhere on the route that I will paint there instead. And I'm kind of hoping the weather's going to stay like this. So I looked on the forecast and it said it may get overcast later on, so I am hoping that I can paint in some of the sunshine. So I'm basically walking in a big circle, and if I can't find any more cherry blossoms or any scenes on the route that I want to paint, I'm going to paint at that lake which I saw at the start. So I really like this scene behind me, so I'm going to paint some of this willow tree, some of the reflection, and then maybe a bit of that pink cherry blossom in the distance. I'll just give you a quick breakdown on my palette. On my palette I've got ultramarine blue, permanent green, turquoise, cadmium red, alizarin crimson, raw umber, yellow ochre, cadmium yellow, and titanium white.
Here I'm drawing in the composition using raw umber paint. I'm also thinly applying some white paint to the lightest sections of the composition. This way I get a quick tonal impression of the overall scene onto my canvas. Now I'm painting in the section of the sky where the blue sky is breaking through the clouds and running a horizontal line across the sky and behind the willow tree in the foreground. To make this blue paint mix, I'm using titanium white, cerulean blue, and ultramarine blue, which I mix first on my palette. I'm making sure to avoid painting the blue too dark by making the majority of my colour mix titanium white, and only once I'm satisfied with the hue and value of the colour mix on my palette do I take the step of applying this paint mix to the painting. As I paint these clouds, I start by painting the very lightest sections first, as it's easier to paint light paint onto a dry section of the canvas, as when you try to paint over wet paint, the layers will mix and this can result in dulling down the paint. I also keep the whole section of the clouds quite light in value, and I make the value shifts between the lights and the shadows and the blue sky very subtle, and rather I articulate these changes more through shifts in hue than shifts in value. To paint the willow tree, I start by mapping down the sections of the shadow within the tree and paint a general mid-tone for the rest of the tree. I then work on top of this by painting the lightest sections using a separate paint mix, as well as painting dark accents on top of this. To paint the distant trees, I use a similar technique of painting a general mid-tone value for the whole section of these trees, and then pick out darker sections such as the tree trunk and branches with a fine pointed brush. I also pick out some specks of light breaking through the upper sections of the tree in order to give the impression of the sky shining through the wiry branches. One of the things which captured me about this scene and ultimately led for me to choose to paint this particular area of the park was this sea of white flowers in the foreground. To paint them, I paint a light section of paint near the tree representing the mass of flowers, and I don't worry about trying to paint each flower, and as the flowers get closer to the foreground I get more specific and start using small dabs of thick white paint to bring out some individual flowers. And by having a few individual flowers merging into this mass of white paint slightly further back in the painting, it helps convey the appearance of that section of white paint as flowers, as our eyes automatically fill this in.
So I hope you enjoyed watching that video of me painting here in Regent's Park. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Check out my next video where I paint a field of sheep and lambs in the Somerset countryside and share my process as I paint.